Hello everybody, this is Zim 2. We're going to continue making our Zim character. We started the Zim 1, so check that out. There should be some links below to how to download Inkscape, which is what we're using, a free program for Mac and for PC and Linux. So let's get going. If you haven't done Zim 1, I recommend you get on Zim 1 and finish it. That's where we're finishing up today. And we'll get our finished Zim face done. So here we go. Remember, here's where we left off. We have our basic green outline of the face. And now we're going to go in and we're going to start working on the mouth. The mouth is pretty easy. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the basic outline. This is kind of sped up a little bit. Let's give that a color. And I don't know why I made that gray, but that's what we did. Anyway, so just to make our basic shapes here. What we're going to do to make our teeth is we're going to make a kind of a snake shape. And we're going to make that first. Well, we made the teeth first. Make this second, and we're going to cut this out of the teeth so we get that shape. So if you notice, I'm clicking on the top of this shape, just straight lines, clicking on the very top of those curves. And then I'm going to go make a complete shape. So I'm going to click over here, and then I'm going to click on the bottom of the curve. Now, when we get this done, you'll see these are all straight lines. It makes a little bit of sense. But what we're going to do is we're going to use what's called a smooth point. We're going to change these points to what's called smooth, which means it makes it get rid of the point in between and makes it obviously smooth. So now here we forgot to put a point. So to do that, you go to your tool and you double click on the line, and it makes a point, and you just drag it down there. So now we have this kind of zigzag shape. So I'm going to use my pointer tool. I'm going to select a couple of points at the same time and click on the smooth button. And see what it does there. It smooths that out so that now I can make adjustments to that shape. And what we're going to do now, it doesn't quite match exactly right. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust those handles so that we keep the shape the same width all the way through it. So I click on the point and I grab this handle, and notice I can move the handle in. Now we could have done what's called symmetrical, which makes both the handles move at the same time and also the same angle, but it gives a little more control using the smooth. So we're going to go through here and we're going to adjust these handles so that we're trying to maintain that width of that line so it doesn't get too narrow at any one point. And that gives us kind of the shape we're looking for. An important thing to remember when you're doing this is that you can make this any shape you want, but we're trying to match the original design, the original style of this, and that makes it look as even width as possible. The best way to do this is to practice, obviously. And also, you want to make sure that your points, you have as few points as possible. You add points to that, and it makes it more jagged. It makes it more or less, smooth. So keep the number of points down to a minimum. Okay, so at this point we're going to just move this line in here to make sure it matches kind of close to the original. And we do the same thing with this line. And these points over here don't matter because we're cutting that out, so it doesn't matter what that looks like. So once I've got that shape done, kind of the way I want, we're going to use the difference tool again. And we're going to grab both objects and use the difference tool to get that to work right. And we're just going to tweak these a little bit to make it work. And then I'm going to go to this, hold my shift key down, click on the teeth. Now both are selected. And I'm going to go up to the path tool, or the path menu, and click on difference. Once again, I'm not using the keyboard shortcuts. That might be easier for you. And so there's my cutout shape. So let's zoom out a little bit and we'll kind of see what this looks like. Notice that has a smooth shape. It kind of matches the original. If you want to, you can go in and try to tweak that a little bit, the shape. I would not try to tweak those squigglies in this at this point, because sometimes it messes up your outline, so you might want to undo that and adjust your squigglies rather than try to adjust it after you've cut it out. So there's my shape. It's got the teeth cut out. Now the nice thing once again is that I have only 3 shapes here. I got the green and then the teeth and then the black, and that gives me more control later on as we try to do other things with this. So let's do the eyeball. We're going to go through this kind of quickly, but this is pretty simple. Basic rectangle, and then we're going to use get a purple color in there, get rid of the outline, and use our shaping tool, and we're going to move this around so it looks right. And then let's do the other eyeball. You can see there's my purple. So let's do the other eyeball here. Now some of this stuff I've skipped through today to try to keep our time limit down. So I gotta save it here. So anyway, you might be going a little bit fast, or we might skip some things. And I'll let you know when we're at that. Sometimes you might have to pause it and do a little catch up if you're doing this at the same time. So here we go. We're making the shapes of the eye. We've got those the right color, and it's pretty basic. Now what we just need to do is need to add the reflections on his eye. I guess Zim has got one big flat eye, and then he's got a reflection. Doesn't have an iris, I guess, as we know it. So let's make some circle shapes, and we're going to put that here. And this is pretty easy. We just make an oval, and we're going to rotate it to kind of match. The original does not have an exact oval, and you can try to match original if you want, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. Notice I click on the object and grab the corners here, and I can rotate it. And then I'm just going to grab that, make another one. Actually, I'm going to just duplicate this and drag it down, grab the corner, shrink it down, and put it kind of in the same spot. And there's I got my 2 little reflections. Now this part here we're going to skip, and we've done the second eye. So you might want to pause that and do the other eye. These are a little bit transparent. So I'm going to go to the object and click transparency. Now I've done transparency on the layer instead. I need to move down to the object here. So let's go down to the object. Here's my opacity right there, and make it kind of see-through. And you can try to make these identical if you like. It's kind of a lot of work, so I'm not worrying about that right now. So there's our finished eyeballs. Well, almost finished. We're going to do some other shapes here. We're going to do some shading on the eye. I don't know if you see that in the original, but there's a kind of a shade there on his eye. So we're going to do that on both the eyes and also on the teeth. So we're going to start by making the shape of the shadow using our drawing tool. And once again, I'm not going to worry about the outside. Now this time we're going to use what's called an intersect tool, because it's going to intersect with the purple eye. So this is all on the outside. I don't care about that. I'm going to shape these lines to kind of match that shadow, to see that shadow there now. And then we're going to use what's called the intersect. Intersect works differently. You select 2 objects and you intersect, and it leaves the thing remaining that overlaps. So you're gonna have to duplicate one of these objects, and I duplicate the wrong one here, so we don't want to do that. And here's I'm going to adjust the opacity here so you can kind of see that it's see-through, and that's how the shadow is going to look. But we want the eye to remain, so I'm going to duplicate the eye, and then what we're going to do is an intersection, and it's going to get rid of the other shape. So I'm going to click on the hopefully here, I think I messed this up originally, so let me make sure we did this right. We want to duplicate the thing that stays. So I'm going to duplicate the eyeball, and I didn't do it right, so let's see what happens. So I'm going to duplicate the eyeball. So now it's on top, which is okay. So I click the shadow, and then I'm going to go up here to the path tool and click intersect. And it leaves that there. Now you'll notice up here, this I don't need, so I'm going to delete that. That's a piece I don't need, so I'm going to delete that. Now I have the shape of the shadow on the eye. Now I want to fix this. I don't want that little thing there, so I'm going to do what's called the difference again. But the problem is I had the wrong one in front, so I have to get the circle in front of it. No, I'm still not figuring it out. So let's go back and do it again. So we're going to put this in front. There you go, in front. And then we're going to right shift and click on this and do the difference. And it should cut that out. But now what's the problem is I have to keep that piece, so that I want to make sure that I duplicate that first and then do the same thing like we did before. There we go. Now we hit difference. Now if you'll notice, I'll drag this out there. There's the thing cut out of that. Now why do I want to do that? I could have just left it overlapped. But I want to do that because if I make a t-shirt design on this, I want to be able to not have those colors overlap. So now do the same thing with this eye that we did before, and notice I've skipped that part. So if you need to, you might want to pause it. And so now I have the shadow on the eyeball, and that's looking pretty good. I'm going to do the same thing now with the teeth. The teeth have a very similar shadow there, so I do the same thing with the teeth. And I can't remember if I skipped this or not. Let's see. I guess not. So we're going to do the teeth. It's a slightly different shape. And we should do the shape on the outside, just like we did with the eye. And we're going to reshape that to match that original. There we go. And then we're going to duplicate the teeth again. Duplicate that, and it's going to be on top. Then we click our shadow with the shift key, and then we're going to do path and intersection, and there's my shadow. Now I just need to change, there it is all cut out. See, it's cut out, the squiggly's already cut out because we've duplicated it, we've intersected it. So now I've got my shadow on my teeth, and you see here, it's looking pretty good. So now there's only a couple things left we have to do. What we're going to do is a shadow on his head. And we're going to skip the shadows we're going to put on over the eyeball, because for the matter of time, we want this to fit in our time limitations. So we're going to now do the shadow on his head. So let's take a look at that. And this is pretty simple. We're just going to make our shape, our shadow shape again, and we're going to do another intersect like we did before. And this is going to just come down here. Now, because it's intersected, we don't have to worry about the mouth. Now, this is the beauty of using shapes, because I don't have to worry about the mouth in the way, because we're intersecting with the green. And the green is already been cut out, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's match these little shapes here. Zoom in on that so we can see it a little bit better. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the smooth setting here again to make sure this is smooth. I click up here, and we use the smooth setting so that we have no visible point there. Now we're going to move this guy in a little bit. Now notice it's overlapping with the mouth, but because we are using the intersect tool, it really doesn't matter, because it's only intersect with the green, and it's automatically going to get rid of that piece. So once again, I have to duplicate the green. Just get rid of my outline. And duplicate the green, and then we're going to grab those two together and go intersect like that. There's my shadow, and I've got rid of the outside line there. So let's change the color of that, and we're going to change the shading of that a little bit. I mean the opacity a little bit, so it's kind of transparent a little bit. And we've got a pretty good shadow going on there, very similar to our original Zim. And we're getting pretty close. We're going to skip making the shadows over the eyebrows and the furrow in the forehead because of time issues. And you'll see that there, it's already there. So it's the same basic steps to make the furrows in the eye. So look for Zim 3. Zim 3, we're going to add some shading to Zim and make them look a little bit more 3D. And also Zim 4, we're going to look at making a t-shirt.